Hey guys, how are you? It's Zach from the Lived Way. Good to see you guys again. It's my third post. Today I just wanted to talk about introspection. Introspection doesn't have to be complicated. Actually, very simple when you think about it. And you do it all the time. You don't even know it. And when you're sitting on the bus, just staring out the window. When you're sitting somewhere in the mall by yourself, just on a bench, just thinking about things. Whenever basically you just space out, your brain's at work, your subconscious is at work, and your brain's just trying to like figure things out, making the decisions, those hard decisions that are hard for you to make or that you think are hard to make, because actual thinking is hard. I don't know who said that. Somebody is quoted somewhere that we don't actually think throughout the day. We do most of the things that we do on autopilot. Maybe 90% of the things we do on autopilot. So like breathing, and we eat on autopilot, we regiment it, we go to work, we have a whole to-do list for the day, we have the laundry we have to do, chores, taking your kids to school, going to work, and being productive at work, climbing the corporate ladder, whatever. But when you actually sit down to just think about life or think or meditate on, what you want to do and maybe issues you might be facing in your life, or, wanting to solve a problem, a lot of people think that sitting there, just staring at the trees, listening to the birds, like how you might hear in the background now, outside by yourself, is a waste of time. If you're not writing down the solutions on a notepad or in a notes app on your phone or something, it's not. Even Einstein, who now everybody reveres as a genius, was labeled as a dunce as a kid. But from what I've read, there were times when Einstein was in his office back, in whatever university where he was employed, or later on when he was in the States, and he would just sit and stare out of his window for hours on end, contemplating things. And to a lot of people now, that seems like a waste of time, but it's not when you think about it. It's one of the best uses of time that you can probably make when you're by yourself. I don't know why people aren't comfortable with solitude more often. I know people that, they can't go to the movies by themselves. They can't have dinner by themselves. I mean, when's the last time you met somebody who just went to a restaurant and asked for a table for one? But there's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with going to the movies with yourself and by yourself, or going to places by yourself, going to the park, sitting down at a bench, and not taking anything with you as a distraction, but just sitting there and thinking about life, taking a long walk through the woods on a trail, you know. But nobody thinks to do it because they think it might be a waste of time. But it's taken me a long time to realize that those of us that do that, um, and usually get the answers we're looking for, or those epiphany moments, or solution to that problem you've been mulling over in your head. It doesn't come right away, you know, but eventually I find that it does. You can't rush it. So that's why a lot of times if I'm dealing with some major obstacle in life or some kind of problem, I just repeat it to myself, and then I just let my mind mull it over, get a good night's sleep, sit outside somewhere when your brain's not stressed out, and when you don't have the vice, like the pressure on yourself, like from the demands of life. When people are making demands from you left, right, and center, whether they're at home, at work, a boss breathing down your neck, trying to juggle what you have to do, paying bills, living life, going here, there. Um, when you just let your mind breathe for a minute or longer, and you just sit looking out at the trees or the clouds, that's when your mind's free to come up with these solutions. And that's when these epiphanies hit you. And that's when you have to write them down. Even right now, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking that I have to talk every second of this video. And why? To fill a void, to fill a moment of silence where I think I may lose my audience. I mean, I invite you to even just try it right now. I know you're watching this video. Just sit there quietly for maybe a minute. That was not a waste of time. Even that 1 minute is something that a lot of people don't give themselves. I don't know where I read it, but I think it's an old Hindu story, you know, where the gods, are looking for a place to hide the divinity of man from them. And, you know, then they say that man spends or has spent the last couple of eons, hundreds of years, looking everywhere for this divinity. And what the Hindu gods did was they said, let's hide it somewhere where man will never find it. So where did they hide it? They said, let's hide it deep within themselves. Now, I don't know exactly if that's how the story goes. I read it somewhere in a book, and but it makes sense, and it's a cool proverb, whether you believe it or not, or story, because it is true. When do we ever take the time out just to try to find the answers that we're looking for within ourselves, deep within ourselves, inside of us, without looking for the answers outside of us, without thinking that we're going to find the solution to a problem or something we're mulling over or issues in our lives by reading the next book or looking for that article or going to some said therapist or looking to some guru or some specialist or some expert. A lot of times, that's not necessary. A lot of times, if you just decide to look within yourself first, you'll find that because of that introspection, you'll end up making better decisions in the end. But I don't think a lot of people give themselves that. When I was a kid, maybe grade five, grade six, my own personal story, you know, one of my favorite teachers told my parents that I used to daydream a lot. And I guess in the class, I would just kind of zone out. And I mean, this was a long time ago where I guess when meditation and mindfulness and introspection wasn't a thing. So, for that era, it was a waste of time. Or maybe they thought, what's wrong with him? That he's not focusing, or it's like, but now when I think back to it, and I remember hearing him either tell me that or my parents telling me that he told them. And now I'm like, what's wrong with that? You know, I see my own kid, he's like 8 years old, zoning out sometimes, just staring at, you know, into nothingness, whether it's out the window or at the sky, and I don't think it's a bad thing because I know that somewhere in there, there's some serious thought going on. Whether it's conscious or unconscious. I mean, if you're thinking consciously, that's hard. They say thinking is hard. When you actually have to physically think of something and actually put effort into thinking, it drains you. But that's the beauty of like unconscious thought is that when you're just sitting there, peacefully, not really focusing on anything and letting whatever thoughts enter your head, you know, just kind of sit there, um, or just letting your mind wander, things will come to you. And then that's when you have to write them down. So you already do this. But if you don't, why don't you try it? What I want you, you know, just go ahead and try it. I mean, I don't know, you may have very busy life. But there are a lot of times, either when you're laying in bed or park bench somewhere, doctor's appointment or something, instead of like pulling out your phone, instead of pulling out a book, instead of like playing, Tetris or Sudoku or whatever, something, instead of trying to be not bored, just sit there quietly for that 15, 20 minutes. The longer, the better. If you can actually sit there for half an hour, just quietly, trying to, you know, tune everything out, look within, just thinking, and not even consciously, just sitting there, doing nothing. Try it. And if you have that epiphany or some great idea, you know, write it down and let me know how it goes. All right. So, this is my third video. If you like the content so far on the lived way, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. All right, guys?